Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm not sure if this is working well. I'm not sure if it's working properly. But if you are here and you can hear me clearly, do let me know. We're using an app that will let us stream on YouTube and Instagram, sorry, not Instagram, YouTube and Facebook and Twitter all at the same time. So if you can hear me properly, do let me know. I would appreciate that. Overall, just as a quick message, I wanted to share my thoughts on the book, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I feel like the idea of that book is so very interesting because it talks about the duality of man, that every single person has an evil inside them. I think on an Islamic lens, we might even call that the nafs, that is inside us. What's really interesting is that he says that, no person to this day has been able to live their life like Mr. Hyde, meaning normally what happens is you have one person with one body and good and evil is battling within themselves. And what he tries to do, the Dr. Jekyll, is he tries to make them into two different individuals. And that way, his good could be purely good and his evil could be purely evil. And that way, it's not mixed. What's very interesting is I think the internet provided us with a way for people to literally live the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You could have someone who is living a normal, virtuous life in the morning. And then in the evening, the person is living the life of Mr. Hyde. In the evening, the person is on an anonymous account doing evil things, or on incognito mode doing evil things, or is a undercover scammer scamming people, or is an undercover hacker hacking people. I think the challenge of the internet life, which many of us grew up in and were raised in, was that the internet gives us this perceived notion of anonymity. And that is, I think, very detrimental in many ways. And that's really kind of what I got out of The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, is the duality of man. All of us have a Mr. Hyde inside us. None of us is purely good or purely evil. And I think one thing I wanted to comment on was trolls and anonymous accounts. But on the other hand, I also wanted to talk about worshiping individuals and celebrities and even shuyukh. I think at the end of the day, what we have to understand is that everyone, especially myself, is going to be flawed to some degree. And in a way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us that the only person, the only being that is perfect is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The era of every good thing comes to an end. There's evil in every single person. There's bad in every single institute, every single organization. And what we have to do is take the good and leave the evil. So I think when it comes to understanding other people, we need to understand them in that lens as well, that there's no one who is perfect. And the third thing is, within ourselves, we need to acknowledge that we have a Mr. Hyde within ourselves. And we need to take protection and put protection in place so our Mr. Hyde does not cause havoc into the world. For example, there's a moment where he tries quitting being Mr. Hyde, but he does not hide the clothes and the properties that are used by Mr. Hyde, meaning he leaves the door open for himself to go back into evil. And I think a lot of us, we can relate with that, where we leave sins, but we don't burn all bridges. We still leave doors open for ourselves to be involved in that sin. But I think Robert Louis Stevenson, the author of the book, I read Treasure Island by him and The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. If you want to read a really good author, you should check him out. But this is just a test. Let us know if you prefer this or if you prefer Spaces on Twitter. We're experimenting with both of them. Hanan was supposed to be here on this live. Let us know what you prefer. I would obviously prefer this, just so marketing wise it goes on to different channels, but that's pretty much it. Jazakallahu khairan, guys. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.